Have you ever agonized over a decision, wondering what God's will is? Or have you been afraid to make a decision for fear that you'd make the wrong decision, miss God's perfect will for your life, and then fall into God's plan B, where you would never reach your potential and you would just suffer and be punished for the rest of your life? Or have you actually made a decision and things haven't turned out the way you expected, so you just assumed that you made the wrong decision and you had fallen out of God's will, and of course you beat yourself up over that? Now, we have all thought these kinds of thoughts, but today we want to stop thinking that way. So I want you to look at the life of the Apostle Paul. In Acts chapter 16, it describes how Paul kept trying to enter a variety of countries and God wouldn't let him. He kept shutting the door. Now, I'm sure that Paul always wanted to find God's will. But did he beat himself up every time the door closed and he had to go and try something else? And when Paul entered some of these countries that God allowed him to, things didn't always turn out the way he had hoped. I mean, he was beaten, imprisoned, and was persecuted. Now, on those occasions, did he assume that he'd made the wrong decision, and if he had made the right decision, this wouldn't have happened to him? No. He just kept walking with Jesus, and God continued to lead his life. He didn't beat himself up over any of the things that we beat ourselves up about. So, how do we know God's will, and what is his will? God's will for us is to be his sons and daughters and to walk in relationship with him. He wants us to have such a close relationship that we think similarly, we do things together, and he guides us naturally. And the Bible says that we have the mind of Christ. So if we're walking close to God, we're thinking his thoughts. So that means that we will come up with the right decisions naturally, without any huge effort, because we'll just think his thoughts because he's living in and through us and we have his mind. So relax. Stop worrying. Stop stewing about whether you're making the right decision, whether you're in God's will, whether you're disappointing God. It's all about relationship. The stronger your relationship with God, the more you have his mind, the more he will lead and guide your life. So, don't settle anymore for a life of uncertainty and confusion over God's will. Walk with him every day. Listen to his voice. Just have a close relationship and you will naturally do his will. And remember, if things don't turn out the way you had anticipated, God can turn everything to your benefit, like he did with Paul. So, we want to hear from you now. How have you made big or difficult decisions wanting to do God's will? Just leave your comments in the box below. We want to hear how you processed big decisions. And if this is your first visit here, you need to get my free self-assessment guide. And to do that, just subscribe to my weekly email newsletter by filling out the subscription form. And I'll talk to you again next week. But this week, relax, walk with God, listen to his voice, and you'll make the right decisions naturally.